Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, TanyaMFK. Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello, I'm TanyaMFK, and welcome to My Design Life, where we test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at TanyaMFK. And if watching videos isn't your thing, then head over to My Design Life Show podcast to catch the audio. Thank you for being here. Today's show, we are going to dive into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to really make time for yourself and balancing that with your day-to-day obligations. But first, just a quick recap of our last episode. We met with Prati Kaufman, a certified master practitioner of Energy Leadership Index Assessment and mindset coach, to walk us through what our 7 energy levels are, how to know where we're at, and how to use this understanding to be our best selves. Each energy level has its own low points and high points, and it is so helpful to have a guide to understand where you are and what that means for you each day. The practice that she gave us was simply to ask ourselves each evening, what brought me joy today? And I'm telling you, that is such a powerful question. Just like my favorite 3 wins practice, it has you look for the good, but it also has you identify if you're truly living a life of the things that bring you joy. And if you are, great. Find more of those things and bring it in. And if not, then it's time to bring those things in. So as always, what we learn each week is that awareness is the first step and the key to creating a life we truly love. So if you missed that episode, go back and check it out and let me know what you think. Now, without further delay, let's learn how to get around our crazy schedules and dive into how to make time for ourselves. Here's our conversation.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
And now for today's guest. A woman after my own heart. She loves goals, schedules, structure, and time management as much as I do. Born in Texas, raised in Costa Rica, she naturally embraces the nomadic and sometimes unpredictable lifestyle while tending to the needs of the right brain for order and organization. With a background in hospitality and events, she is the founder and CEO of a Conscious Coach Conference, supporting coaches to create businesses that are sustainable and scalable, all while managing to tend to herself, her values, and hobbies. But she wasn't always like that. Her first 5 years of entrepreneurship, she went full anarchy of the 9-to-5 schedule with no structure. She learned the hard way that that doesn't work either. She is here today to discuss how to bring not balance, but harmony to pursuing our goals while creating time for ourselves and self-care. Please help me in welcoming a woman that calls herself a bougie hippie, Alexandria Tomayko. Welcome so much, Alexandria.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you for having me. After hearing that introduction, I'm like, oh, she's pretty cool. I'm like, oh, wait.
Who is that lady? That is you. It was so much fun reading and seeing kind of your information come through my desk, because I'm reading this and I'm like, is this me? Except I wasn't born in Texas, but I'm like, she's in California. She's like, wait a minute. I was like, wow, it's just awesome. So I was so excited to have you come on and learn about you from, like I said, from the travel to the organization, the yoga, being around water. I was like, oh my God. My brother calls me the Hollywood hippie. So I was like, this is going to be way too much fun. But one of the things that I love that you said in what we were learning about you was that, we're really searching for harmony and not balance. And I would love for you to help kind of explain that distinction and what we're looking for in our time.
Yeah. So I see it as, and I was just meditating on this morning. I'm like a happy medium kind of person. Like, you can't do too many extremes. And with balance, any little thing can knock you off balance, right? So it's not a consistent and it's not sustainable. But harmony and harmonizing and merging both sides of your life, right? That business and that personal, that work and that like play, that is possible, right? Because it is going to fluctuate. It's going to flow. It's going to ebb and flow. And so striving for balance is nearly impossible, but striving for harmony and kind of like the merging of them, that's more sustainable, right? Because so many people try to have that work-life balance that everybody talks about, and then they get really down on themselves and very hard because they're not achieving it. And it's because it's nearly impossible to achieve. So why not find something that works for you, right? And so like, I'm happy medium. I'm not a vegan, not a vegetarian, but I'm not a full-blown like raging carnivore, right? There are
Right.
days where I just do vegetables and, or I'll juice in the morning and have a green juice to balance out like when I eat meat or carbs or something like that. So finding a way to, harmonize with what we eat, with what we do, with what we consume, and talking about, not only in our bodies, but also with what we read, with our mind and what we see. That's really kind of like that nirvana bliss that you can find in this lifetime. I see it as.
I love that. And I think like even the word balance itself it has that connotation of like equal parts. And the truth is that it's not always going to be that. Sometimes there's going to be seasons where there's more work than there is like family time, and there may be more family time where there's work, and letting that be that harmony, that kind of ebb and flow, as opposed to like, well, I got to have, like this equal, it's got to be all perfectly balanced. And so I really love that view. So you're here today to really kind of bring why we need to be creating time for ourselves, but also for our goals, like I guess in line with that harmony, and really in line what you're teaching about, because your conference is a conscious coach, and teaching them scalability. But if we're feeling out of line, if we're feeling chaotic, it's really hard to build a business. So I would love to kind of hear your thoughts and how we create this time.
Yeah. And so just to back up a little bit on the conscious coach, that's one of my companies. I have another one as well, but we say, building sustainable and scalable businesses. And the first step of that is being a sustainable person. And that means being in line, mind, body, and soul, right? Because so many times we find ourselves trying to give, and kind of that, like, as they say, filling up other people's cup before we're full and we're sustained. So then, that's when burnout happens, especially with entrepreneurs trying to find that like balance that's impossible. So really focusing on being a self-sustaining human, being healthy in all ways possible, and what works for you, right? Sometimes paleo diet, what doesn't work for vegans, or, whatever it is for you to find your flow. And then from there, working and building a sustainable business. So I have Excel sheets, of course, because that's my
yes.
And when you're talking
lists
about
and Excel sheets, yes, I love it. I love it. Structure. I love that, like, because I'm I always joke I'm that Pisces, so I'm like, I love that like lovely kind of hippie thing. But then if it's too like woozy, I'm like, oh my gosh, where's my schedule? Where's my structure? Where's my like, organization? So bring it on. So if you want to go ahead, we could share that. Any of you guys listen to the podcast, we can probably get some screenshots that we can share later, so you can also check these out.
Perfect. Okay. So, and that said, so many people before, I break open the Excel and like scare everyone. So many people are against like operations and logistics. When they hear that word, their eyes just glaze over, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's like either a software or I have to be like super rigid and like to the minute. And that's not, again, like happy medium, like what works for you. So what I found is easiest for people to kind of slip into is time blocking. And that's what works for me. Like I
absolutely
hate being told what to do. Like I'm so about like, okay, every single minute needs to be accounted for when I'm like running events and things like that. But I hate being told what to do. And so it was like, okay, I can't like tell myself and try to trick myself into doing this like super rigid schedule, because it's just not who I am. Right. So I just block out periods of time, and that really helps me just to kind of flow.
Absolutely.
And that said, when I talk about, when I teach on retreats and things like that, everybody's like, oh yeah, just flow. You don't need an itinerary. You don't need a schedule. And if you think about it, right? You're searching your head.
No, absolutely not.
A river flows because it has a riverbed, right? It has that structure to keep it so it can. And sometimes the water will spill over a little, and that's okay. But it has a course to go to the ocean, right? All of it to the ocean.
And if it doesn't, eventually would drain. It'll drain off the sides. It's no longer a river. It's no longer functional. It changes. It wouldn't be what it is. Like that is what keeps it in the direction to where it's headed.
And to fulfill its purpose. And so, seeing a schedule as that, right? Like, yeah, you want to flow, that's great, but you need a framework so you can flow through it, right? Like if you don't put water in a glass and you just kind of pour it, it's going to go all over the place, right? And that's when we feel out of control, out of balance or harmony, because everything's just kind of chaotic and falling where it may, versus having a container that like, yes, I can modify it and maybe not pour as much water in today, or sip a little more tomorrow, but it's still contained, and it gives you a base and that stability, and it's a really grounding function that helps you to be your better self, right?
Yes, yes. I'm a huge fan of this type of scheduling. I actually have a course about this scheduling that we walk people through to not only learn like the specifics of it, but all the different types of blocks to create, as well as how to create like their own 30-day plan in real time to test it out. So this is, again, you're right in line with where this is. So I'd love to, yeah, let's show them what you have.
As an entrepreneur, it's always this like wishful thinking, right? Like, oh, I wish I could, I really want to, but time never gives itself. And if you're a 9 to 5 too, right? It's like, oh, I'm working, and so I don't have time to pursue whatever passions you want to do.
And the truth is, you never will. You will never find time. It doesn't find you. It doesn't stumble upon you. You absolutely have to create it.
Exactly. And we all have the exact same 24 hours in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's optimizing and using that leverage of what can I do in that 24 hours that's going to feed my mind, body, soul, and everything else. So I started doing this about 2 years ago, and actually, I wasn't really looking at my schedule this morning. I was being bad. And so I thought our call was earlier. So it actually gave me some time to like set out my 2020 goals. So these are mine. They're not too personal. I kind of kept them brief, but go as personal as you like. But establishing goals. And so seeing what are, your core values and the things that are really important to you. So for me, my body and my health is one of my priorities. My soul, feeding my soul, right? Sometimes we don't think about our soul as part of us. And I am a little bit of a mystic, woo-woo spiritual person. And so I need to do things that feed my soul. Feeding my mind, cultural activities. I love learning about other cultures, experiencing them. That can be languages, dance, anything like that. Family is very important to me. Mm-hmm. Pursuing different passions that I have, and then odd DIY projects that I come up with. Relationships, business, and financial. So those are kind of my main kind of categories that I have for my goals in the year.
Love it.
So kind of taking a moment and thinking about like, what are your key categories, right? If you have, children or husband, like maybe it's my significant other relationship and then my friend relationships, right? Or maybe you're like, I don't have passion projects, or I don't have additional projects that I want to do. So whatever, all of this is customizable, right? Mm-hmm. So I just kind of I meditated a little bit, and I laid out kind of where do I see myself in 2020? And after, all of those, I wish I could, shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of things over the past years, if I had it all, what would I be doing? What knowledge would I have? What experiences would I have? What relationships would I have? How would my health be? And then kind of sitting in that and seeing like, okay, to maybe drop 10 pounds, I need to start running again. Or maybe to, up my immune system, I need to start eating more veggies and cleaner. Or to really move the energy and feed my soul, I need to dance and swim more, because I know that lights me up, right? So establishing those goals in a way that just kind of pour it all out, and then we separate them. So for example, I'm just going to read off like the first one of each. My soul is swimming. I love swimming. And also I am moving to Bali at the end of the month for 3 months. So my schedule is a little hectic. And so I'm trying to schedule, but it will change, right? Because I have 3 companies here in the US that I'm leaving. So things will be different, but I'm, manifesting and envisioning a pool at my house where I can just jump in the water every month. Right. Reading 12 books a year. So the average CEO reads about 50 to 60 books. I'm not a reader. I never have been. So that's always been a challenge for me, where I'm like, okay, once I develop that habit, it will be easier.
Yes. Yes. And I will say, guys, when I did this in 2018 and really started being diligent with choosing my goals and pushing myself as well, not just making things that are comfortable and attainable, but really pushing it. I also was not a reader. And I ended up reading well over 26 books in my first year. Ooh. And 1 month, it only happened once, but 1 month I read a book a week. And I couldn't even believe it. Again, I am not a reader. It was never like considered a fun thing. I love information, but books was not a thing. So just starting, it will be so surprising where it takes you. And now like I cannot, like I get bummed out if I go like a day or two without reading. Like now it's my thing. Like now I'm hooked. I get it. Like I get it now. Like, and I've always loved the concept. I just, when I'd start doing it, I'd be the one who'd fall asleep. Like it took me 4 years to read like a book someone gave me. And now I was reading like book a week. So that's awesome. Like I'm so excited for you to do that. I would love to hear how it goes.
Thank you. Yeah. And that's, sometimes I also had a friend, we were talking about books, and I was like, it's just like, I'd like start reading a book and I'm very left brained. Like I still have a very creative mind, but I'm very left brained, as you can see in my Excels. And I was like, some books I just start them and I just like, don't want to go back to them. And he's like, yeah, it's okay. Sometimes like you're not ready, or the book like serves, like maybe you just needed to read that chapter and then put it down and read another one. And so also giving ourselves again that permission of that happy medium of maybe you read 3 chapters and it's what served you and what was calling to you. And then it's okay to jump to another book. And yes, trying to close that cycle and everything, especially because our brain loves closed cycles. But it's okay to do that. So like if you're,
it's okay to not like a book. You might get a book that everyone says is like the best book, and you're like, I just don't like it. That's okay too.
Everybody's so different. So respecting who you are is really key, especially as goals. Like I have an odd goal that's coming up that like, it's just something that, and people are like, why? Like, are you going to make money off of it? Like, I'm like, I think it would just be really cool to be able to do that, So business, I have scaling my company to 12 employees, cultural, learning sign language. Usually I like learning languages. Like 2 years ago, I did Tango and German. And I just love learning, like having random facts about me where I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. And they're like, it's not even like functional, it's like, I challenged myself to do it.
Totally get that. I read and write Korean, so I totally get that.
That's a good thing. Yeah. And it's just like something, a feather in your hat. Why not? It's a goal. FaceTiming with my family once a week to keep that connection with them. Passion, creating my podcast. And then one of my projects is Sugar Work, which is the odd one where, I don't know if you guys have seen it. I love baking shows. And it's like you take ice malts which is like beet sugar, but you can make flowers and bowls and it's like glass, and it's beautiful and delicate. And people are like, what does that add to you? I'm like, it's just really cool. And when you get a birthday cake that has like a sugar work on it, you're welcome, because I studied to do that too.
Well, and you know what, the thing I think that people underestimate is you have to be fascinated with something in order to be fascinating. And if you've ever been in a conversation with somebody where you're just like enthralled in the things that they're talking about and what they're doing, rarely is it that they're saying, this is what I do for a living. Usually they're telling you adventures or things that they've done, and you're like, this person is just fascinating. And this is how you actually come to that. It's not just some magical personality, it's actually going where you put yourself into things for the sake of the fun of it, for the sake of the bliss of it, for the sake of it, just because you like it, right? You're interested in it. And that leads to that fascination, and leads to that bliss, and it can lead to the happiness, which actually does fuel your success. It actually fuels all those other parts. So if you're someone who's like, well, I just want to focus on my success in the bank account, I'm telling you right now, like engaging in these kind of things and finding those things that brought you joy or bliss as a child or interest you now, they not only will they actually bring that, but they will actually facilitate the other parts of your life as well. So that sugar work absolutely makes sense. I totally hate baking and would never do that. This is where we differ. But that's the thing though. Like you find that and you're like, I totally want to do this. This is what I'm into right now. I want to learn how. I want to learn more boxing. Like I'm not going to become a professional boxer. I'm not going to do any of those things, but I would love to box. I don't look like a boxer, but I would love to do that. So that's just something that, and it's not because even for a workout, like I want to do other things for a workout, but I would totally be like, I want to learn to like be all cool and like do that. So why not, So yeah.
Those are little things like, that's why I have passion and then projects, which are really like passion projects, but I separate them because so many times I have these like, and that's another thing, like intuitive hits, right? When like something like sparks a little bit of joy, that's your soul lighting up. And like, we're so
Mm-hmm.
worried in this time and space about our mind and our body, but we're not feeding our soul. So it's like those things that bring you joy are actually going to fuel your body, right? Your body is just your vessel, like getting a little metaphysical kind of thing. Your body is just your vessel. So when you feed your soul and you like light up, it's like when you see a person and there's just this twinkle in their eye and they're just full of life. These are the things that do that. So if you're thinking that, you know, like you were saying, just focusing on your success and going to work and, you know, going to bed and spending time with your family and then doing it all over, like that's a miserable life and that's a hamster wheel. And so of course you're not happy. Of course you have a lot of stress. Of course you're sick most of the time and you're in debt and you have negative thoughts and all of this kind of stuff. And it's because you're not doing things that put a smile on your face, because in life you deserve to be happy. And, you know, growing up a little in my history, I had one of my best friends die when I was 22. All of a sudden she was 24. And it really gave me that like reality check of, oh my gosh, like you could not be here tomorrow. So what are you doing? And it's not like a millennial YOLO. If not, my sole purpose and job is to make myself happy. And it sounds selfish, but
and it's only your job. That on top of, not only is it your only job, but it's only your job. Like it's not anyone else's responsibility or outside circumstance to make that happen.
And no one's going to do that. No one's going to be like, oh, Tanya needs more money to be happy. Here you go. Right. So it's like, you know, I made a commitment to myself, which my mother dislikes very much, where the moment I wake up in the morning and I'm dreading talking to that client, going to work, doing whatever I'm doing and disliking my life, that's the moment I make a change. Right. And so that's why I'm such a nomad, because, you know, I'm moving to Bali because the moment I was like, you know what, having to buy sweaters and like be in cold weather, not exciting. Let's go to Bali. Right. Because I know it's going to feed my soul. And in that moment I listened and my soul was like, yeah, let's go surfing. So these things are really important. So financial goal, and this one is kind of important because, right, that's like a lot of people's driver because it offers you freedom, right? Finances and money is an expander when you think about it. So like when you have a lot of money, you have so many opportunities versus if you only have $100 in your bank account, like you're very limited, you feel constricted, you don't feel good, you don't feel safe. So a lot of time we have financial goals. And the reason I'm like stopping here a little bit is because the way that we map it out is because, you know, I can say here it says 150,000 for 6 months. But if your goal is $1 million, if you wake up in the morning and you're like, I need to make $1 million, that's like really intimidating, right? Like that's really heavy.
It's hard to see. It seems so far away.
Exactly. And so why don't I just snooze that, go back to sleep and like dream about having $1 million? It's like getting up and doing it. Where do you even begin? But when you break it down, right? And like, we're going to show you how, it becomes $8,000 a month. That feels a little better. And then it becomes $4,000 every 2 weeks. And then it's $2,000.
And this is perfect too. I'm sure what you learned with working with like coaches and people who are starting new businesses, a lot of times they're like, well, I just need more money. I need money. I need more money. And it's like, well, have you ever thought, how many clients is that? How many, you know, how much does a client bring in? Okay. And then how many clients times how many to reach that goal, which would be this many a month. And then you might go, well, that means I need 600 clients. Okay. Well, then we need to think about either how you're going to serve 600 clients, or you need to talk about raising your prices. Like these help make decisions. This clarity of even breaking down a goal not only shows you where you want to go, but actually helps you make decisions right now to have that go, well, oh wait, you're right. Like I should stop charging $1 a client and I need to start going a little more. You're like, yeah, if you want to hit these goals, otherwise you see where you're at and go, well, this is where you're going to be. And you're going to be really tired. So having that clarity, not just like pulling it out of thin air, like it's this much, $1 million. Well, you know, cause it sounds like, well, and I know people get frustrated, you know, like get specific. I don't know what $1 million. Like, is that how much you need right now? Is that like right now? And then you're like, let's break it down. Like, what is that? You know, do you need $80,000 a month? And then you're like, actually, I guess I'd be comfortable with, 15. You're like, okay, well, why don't we look there and start working towards that? So I love the specificity, I can never say that, specificity of that. And what that really brings you.
Yeah. And it's those baby steps. Cause and if you look at people like authors that, there's some totally, and I don't know if I can say this word, but badasses in the world, right? That they, have written 8 books and run 2 companies on top of a podcast on top of it. And it's like, where do you find the time? And it's like, well, I every morning would wake up an hour earlier, set an alarm, and write for an hour. And there were days that I just sat there and stared at the paper and did nothing. But if you do that every single day for an hour, at the end of the year, you have a book, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily, a lot of people, again, it's that happy medium. A lot of people are like, I'm going to go to the gym 4 hours, 5 days a week. And it's like, do 15 minutes, do 5 push-ups. And then the next day, do 5 push-ups. And developing that habit is more sustainable, right? Because so many times we're extreme. We want to crash diet. We want to, audio book 50 books in a week.
Right.
And it's like, you're overwhelming yourself. You're overloading yourself. And so it's not sustainable. And then the other one I have is relationships. So up here, I have kind of my guidelines, which is, what are my parameters in which I function? So it's, I need to be in bed by 11 p.m. and I have a bedtime clock, like an alarm that goes off to remind me, because so many times we'll go into, and I don't do that anymore, but like Facebook or Netflix, or, we're on our computer working, and then we look up and it's 2 a.m. and it's like, oh my gosh. And sleep is really, really crucial, right? Morning and evening routines are sacred.
Yes.
Because it's how you are preparing to go into respite and to rest, right? How you're preparing your mind, body, and soul, that it's like, okay, a lot of times people are overly anxious when they go to bed, or they have a lot of things. Then have a notepad by the side of your bed and write all that out, right? Like, just get it out so you can rest. So if you have dreams of anxieties of like tests coming up, or presentations or stuff like that, it's because you're not writing it out, you're not putting it on paper, so that then you can free up space,
so you can release it. Absolutely. And the lights, and there's so many different things. That screen time, not only does it get the mind excited, but there's actual very scientific, like, neurological things that are happening with that blue light that comes into you, and that keeps you up for up to 90 minutes after the time that you've put that phone away. So not only are your thoughts and your chaos and those things keeping you up, but then you have something that's biological in your body working against you because of these choices. So like, having that transition time, creating a bedtime. And I always joke with people, like, yes, you're an adult. That's why you need a bedtime. Like, it didn't change just because, kids needed a bedtime, but they needed a bedtime because we knew how much sleep they needed. It doesn't change when we get older. We think like, oh, it doesn't matter, or I can go by 5 hours of sleep. We need to know what we want, because your evening is going to determine your morning. So it's so important to have that bedtime. I love that you have an alarm. That's really awesome.
It's, people are like, an alarm to wake up, but I'm like, what about an alarm to go to bed? And your quality of sleep is so important, that like, we live in a culture that it's like, I can do more with less, right? Like, I can sleep with 2 hours and like conquer a day. And it's like, no, because that's when your body is actually restoring itself physically. That's when your mind is restoring itself physically. So why would you?
Yeah, it's actually clinically proven you cannot do it on 2 hours. It affects your hormones, it affects your mood, it affects your memory. So your work, if you think you're doing it, especially for those, like I always call them the successinators, are like, I'm going to beat the system. Like, it's clinically proven that you're not. And as a matter of fact, like, it's shown your work is taking longer, all of these things. So there is no beating that system. That system is the system that actually helps you accelerate. And that's the bedtime. That is the sleep. That is not only when it's helping the memory and your function and all of that, but you're actually regenerating like parts of your body. Like, you're literally, like, you have this new system every 180 days. So like a new liver, your new this, that's happening. So when you're not getting that sleep, like, you will get sick. You will get sick, period. Like, you think I sleep when I die. Well, this will help you get there faster. And guess how much work you get done when you're dead? Nothing. So like, that little loophole you think you're going to win is a losing battle. Like, it's so hard, especially for like my entrepreneurs here that are listening. I get it. Like, and you just caught me at this time right now, Alexandria, because we just met with a doctor talking about sleep. So it's just been like on the forefront. I'm like this crusader now for sleep. And it is like, but I get how hard it is. I get it's like, I do, again, the same trap. I'm going to stay up a little later. I'm going to do a little more work. Like, it's just push it. But the truth is like, it's so much more done when I'm rested and I do better quality work. There's just no cheating ourselves around this one. Like, I don't care what you think you can do. It doesn't work that way. Like, period.
And one of the biggest components I see is of burnout. So I've had burnout twice in my life. Last time I had burnout, and this is for all the entrepreneurs listening, and even the 9-to-5ers, I couldn't remember my name, Okay.
My goodness.
It's serious. And your
Yeah,
brain,
it's a real thing.
it's a real thing, and your brain loses functionability every time that you burn out. And the
Yeah.
biggest thing with burnout is sleep. It's lack of sleep.
Yeah.
Like
Ariana
that.
Huffington, a lot of people don't even know like where she started. Her story came from literally waking up with a bloody nose because she had passed out while working and smacked her face like on her table and a computer. Like that's how burnout she was, that she just like passed out and like broke her nose. Like it is like incapacitating, and it's not something to be glorified. It's not something to be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, push like that thing. I feel like there's the shift coming where people are starting to like wake up to that, no pun intended, but really like start to see that isn't the way. Like we can't glorify this like sleeplessness. The only people who get away with sleeplessness are people, I swear, who have like, babies. Like, okay, you know what, that's part of
And
it.
they are fully functioning at their highest,
Yes,
right? They're
yes.
exhausted. And I have, last comment on that is, I was talking to a really successful consultant, and it was like the first thing, and I was listening to a podcast, I wasn't talking. The first thing that he looks at, like, and he consults with like Forbes 500 kind of companies, he'll be like with the CEO and he's like, let's look at your sleep. And they're like, no, but like the goals and it, no, let's look at your sleep.
Yeah.
Let's get your sleep on track. Let's get you a tracker. And then everything changes, right? Your mood changes.
Yes.
Your ability changes.
And your relationships change because of your mood. Like it affects everything. Like, oh my goodness. So this bedtime alarm, guys, this is a really simple but powerful step to start that process, to have that reminder. Even if you don't get your butt to bed right away, like have that reminder until you're like, oh yeah, I really should be doing that. And to the point where you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. Like just do it.
Yeah. And I leave it on, and sometimes I ignore it. And I love, like, for me, it's a little like, yes moment when I wake up in the morning, because I like put my phone on do not disturb so the bedtime reminder won't go off if I go to bed before. So sometimes I wake up and I see my bedtime reminder and I was already asleep before, and I was like, yes, I beat this. I did it. I got extra 45 minutes of sleep,
I love it.
So it's really important. So, I have my bedtime, what time I want to be up. I want to be up by 7:30, be in the office by 10 a.m. Sundays and Mondays are my day off. And then alcohol consumption limited to once a week, stick to my work schedule. And then I added in swim every day. I want to just swim every day, right?
Yes.
Feed myself. So, and again, like happy medium. People are like, you have to meditate 15 minutes. And like a lot of people have like a very rigid morning schedule, like morning routine, because yes, it is sacred. It sets you up. My morning routine is literally, I want to sit in the sun with coffee and be like, that's all I need. Like, and sometimes I'll journal, and sometimes I think about what I need to do, but like, I don't want to be like, okay, I have 15 minutes to do this. And then for me, it doesn't work. I'm not fully awake in my body until 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And like, I'll go to meetings. Sometimes I'm summoned to meetings at like 9, and I'll be like, yeah, the coffee hasn't kicked in. And they're like, it's okay. And I was like, why did I agree to this meeting? Because I just know my body, right? I know my mind. It's not like I'll say stupid shit. And I'm like, how am I saying this stuff that's coming out of my mouth? And as soon as 10 hits, I'm like, I'm correcting that. This is what I mean,
Here's
so
where I am. Well, and what I love to tell people too is like, don't confuse the process with the results. So you see those articles, CEOs, top morning routines, and, Tony Robbins is jumping on a trampoline and so-and-so is taking cold showers. And there's nothing inherently wrong with any of those things. They are all great ideas, but blindly adopting something is not going to magically change where you're headed. The whole point and goal of a morning routine or process or clarity and knowing how to create that morning and not waking up immediately to someone else's agenda, the whole point of that is to create and frame your day for yourself, is to put yourself at a peak state before you go into anything else, to fill your cup first, whatever version of that you need to hear. That's the point of it. So it's not the stuff. It's not checking off the list. It's not, well, I meditated. Well, I did 5 minutes and then I did that. And then even take take Alexandra's things there. Okay. Then I swam and then I ran and then I went in the sunset. Okay. Check. If that's like stressing you out, these wonderful things, we are absolutely missing the point of why we need the routine. So, the process versus the result. So the result is what we're we're looking for. And that result is to create that foundation of calmness and clarity and filling your cup and resilience before you go into anything that's for anyone else.
Yeah. And with that whole, using other people's examples, which is great. Like you can take tidbits here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is on this kick of like true entrepreneurs and like successful, like people who succeed wake up early. And I'm like, yeah, no. And they're like, yeah, but like, and people are like, wake up at 4 a.m. And I'm like, no, my body, like I feel like when I wake up really early, I feel like I have cotton in my brain. And I'm just like, what happened?
Yeah.
And I could be going to bed at 6:30 p.m. and waking up at 4:30. And my cognitive function, I'm like, I don't know where I am. Like, is this Earth? Who am I? What is my name? Right. So again, respecting what works for you. And so many people, like I've had so many friends and consultants be like, you need to be doing this. I'm like, you need to
you need to well, and I tell you, the best way to know how to take advice is to know yourself. Because there's going to be someone who says, you should be waking up at noon. There's someone's going to say you're waking up at 4. There's someone that's going to say it should always be 8. There's someone who say, every version of it. And the only way you know who's right is by knowing what you need. And that's the only judge of it. Like there isn't actually one of those who are going to be right. It's going to be what do you need? And if you don't know that, if you're not taking time, like looking at this spreadsheet that like Alexandria has here, like clear on what you want and what works for you and where you're headed, then that advice is only going to steer you batshit crazy, because you're going to take it all and be trying to do it quote unquote right. And the only right that exists is what's right for you. So the further distance you are from paying attention to you, to taking that morning routine where you spend time with you, the more you're going to drive yourself to burnout, even with the best of intentions, because you're trying to do this quote unquote right thing without knowing what you need, because you're listening to what the top people are saying you should do, and I love that, Alexandria. Like I actually absolutely am an early morning subscriber. Like I love the 4 a.m., but I actually love it. And I learned about, the whole chronotype thing, which is a sleep thing. You guys can check that out. That it isn't like that for everyone. There are people that like you do better and function based on your chronotype. And the only way to really know your chronotype is by knowing your habits. So if you're forcing yourself into different like pieces because you think that's what works, like it's not what we need. We really need to know ourselves to know what the best thing to follow is.
Yeah.
So,
and
absolutely.
That I found out was, what is the time that I wake up without an alarm? Like if I'm respecting my bedtime, I will wake up, and that creates, like with the bedtime timer, where I don't have to listen to an alarm. Like for me, in the morning, I'm just I tell people, I'm like, my soul is arriving into my body and we're settling, and I like it like quiet, and I don't like people to talk to me. And so some people wake up with like a blaring alarm and music, I'm like, let's go. And I'm like, get out of my face.
Or something that sounds like a fire alarm that's like chaos. We were talking about this with another guest that we had, where I had a friend who we were sharing a hotel room, and her alarm went off. I do the music. I wake up with like this calm Iron and Wine, like folksy music, and I love it. It's like really light, and I just like, oh, kind of feel like my wonderful morning. And I was there, and her alarm went off, and it literally sounded like an emergency was happening in the hotel. And I love her so much, but I literally got up and I was like, what is wrong with you? Like I just yelled at her like first thing in the morning. I was like, why would you wake up like that? She's like, oh, so I can hear it. I was like, that's the most awful sound like I've ever heard. Like, don't ever do that if we're together. So that I don't get. And actually when we did speak with Dr. Soria, she said it's not good for your balance, for your hormones, like for that cortisol levels. So that's something to work on. I would say to each his own, but I'm actually going to say that there is evidence that is not good for your body. So
that's like with, one of my pet peeves is people, like, I love sleep. I love respecting people's sleep. And one thing that I'm weird about, like, I love waking people up, because so many people will be like, get up. And it's like, you don't want to be startled awake. So I'll go and like rub people's back. I'm like, it's time to get up. Okay, 5 minutes. I'm going to come back. Right. Like people rip people's covers off, turn on light. Like that's the most disturbing way to wake people up. Like go in. My mom was great about that. Like she'd come and she'd rub my back and she's like, breakfast will be ready in 5 minutes. time to get up. Good morning.
I love it.
You need 5 more minutes. I'll be like, yeah. So waking up in a nice way, but like, it's beautiful to wake up without an alarm, right? And if you stick to a schedule and you're able to create that pattern and that habit for yourself, and really that's what you're doing with a schedule, is creating a habit so that your body and your mind is on autopilot, right?
It's in a rhythm. Yeah. You really are working within your rhythm.
Yeah. And then you don't like need those additional things. And so companies plan quarterly. I plan every 3 months. So, and actually women cyclically, we have 3-month periods is our process, right? That's why it's like 9 months. It's first trimester, second trimester, third trimester when we're pregnant. And so I plan 3 months. And so what I do is 3 months on of intense work where it's back to back, just like almost hustle. I hate the word hustle, but aligned flow.
Right.
And then I get a month off. So sometimes it's 2 weeks, sometimes it's a month. And that's for me to just do whatever I want to do. And this has been my cycle since I was before college. And so many people are like, well, why are you creating a life that you need to run away from? And I'm like, no, I'm creating something that works for me because I can sustain that, right? It's sustainable. I can work really hard for 3 months because I see a deadline, and then I drop off the map. I go travel, I go be in the ocean, turn off everything, no social media, no nothing, just with the people that I want around me or by myself, replenish, recharge, and then I come back and I'm ready to do it again.
Yeah. And that's its own balance, going to some sort of level of what someone could call like extreme work. When it has a definitive beginning and end, when it's a season, when it doesn't become the norm, and then it's followed up by extreme restoration, that itself can be that form of harmony and balance, and for some, like for you, it's the 3 months and 1 month, for some people, you can have a week perhaps that does that. But where it switches is when that first week of like, I'm going to really push it this week turns into the next week and turns into the next week and the next week, until that just becomes your life. And that's where the danger happens. So like finding that interval where you will disconnect, where you will be present in something else, where you will have that time of restoration, that is so valuable at all times. And I know in like American culture specifically, it's that vacation is so looked down upon and kept as a wish and not as like a clinical necessity. And it absolutely is something that we need. We do our best work, have our aha moments when we're not trying to force something to happen, like when we're away from work. So that take a break.
And those 2 days, like if you're working, like if you're like, okay, I work Monday to Friday or I work Tuesday to Saturday, right? You're 5 days or sometimes 6 days. Like I work 6 days a week mostly. That's great, but 2 days downtime is not enough. And if you think about it as an entrepreneur, if you don't have assistance, which again, entrepreneurs, like again, for 9-to-5ers, like you're doing Monday to Friday and then you have the weekend, right? Like, and that means you got to do laundry, you got to go grocery shopping, you got to do all this. As entrepreneurs, we forget, and so much we have this like emblem on our chest of I'm an entrepreneur, I do it all. And you're doing so much more, right? Like you are sales, you are HR, you are admin, you are finance, and then on top of that, having a functioning life and a personal life. Like, first of all, if you're listening, kudos, you're doing a good job.
Right.
Give yourself time, and knowing, again, like I talked about a little bit at the beginning, like leveraging, right? I lived with some roommates and they were 9-to-5ers and I'm an entrepreneur, and they kind of looked down upon the fact that I had a maid and I had a personal assistant, but I sent her to the DMV. I had her do my grocery shopping because I looked at it and I was like, okay, I could go grocery shopping and it takes me about 3 hours. I overspend money because I'm a foodie and I love food, and I'll be like, ooh, I want to try this. Ooh, I want to try that. Right. And a maid, because I would have 3 hours of downtime a week and I didn't want to spend it cleaning. And again, I'm not saying that I'm above it. I will, but I would prefer to rest, restore, or spend time with my family or do
choosing. It's a choice of where to put your time and money. Absolutely. Exactly. That's what you make it for. What are we working so hard for? If we can't have and adjust to create the life that we want. And so being able to make that choice of I would rather spend time than clean. And it's not about, being above or something. It's like, where's the best place for my time to be? And that investment of doing that allows you, that's what you work so hard for. That's the point of creating something and doing that, and having that freedom, that financial freedom, is so you can do those things, as simple as that may be. It's not the yacht and chauffeur all the time, that has to be the luxury. It's like, I get to have 3 hours to myself of downtime because I chose to not do my dishes that I'm very absolutely capable of doing.
Yeah, or having meal prep. A lot of my friends are entrepreneurs here in Southern California, and they have meal prep delivered, right? How long does it take to cook? It's a really, like, when you look at time-wise, and then also, like, okay, let's say you're paying this person $20, $15 to $25 an hour. Let's just say 20 for a round number. If you pay yourself and you're able to produce $100 an hour, that's a small percentage. That's $20. You're still making $80 in that amount of time.
Absolutely.
Right? So, like, you're paying for that. You're providing another job for someone. You're providing income for someone. You're supporting someone, their family. And then you're also allowed to serve more in a greater way. Right. And so that's like leverage that we're talking about. So, like, what works for you. So that's my cycle: 3 months on, 3 months, 1 month off. Sometimes I'm not good at it. Sometimes I'm like 3.5 months, but that's kind of how I see it. And so I map out everything in 3 months. You can do it in quarters. And then, so laying out, what are your goals? So for example, I have like a massage once a week. Like, I'm moving to Bali. Massages are like $3 in Bali. So like, I want to do a massage once a week and like heal my body.
Yes. That's on my list once a week. And hate me or not, I get 2-hour massages every week. And that is such a thing for me to look forward to and have that time for myself. And not only is it like this kind of quiet time to myself, but I also know that I'm doing something good for my body, especially after spending a week sitting at a desk. Like, for me, like, that is, so it helps sustain that work as well. Like, it is a business investment and it's a me investment. So absolutely love that. Yes.
And again, like that, what works for you, and not letting other people's opinions, because people are going to be like, haters are going to hate.
Yeah.
Last year, I spent a whole year, last year and this year, building my company. It was amazing how many people would come out of the woodworks to take time to call me for an hour and hate on my vision and my dream. Well, I'm like, wow, you don't got nothing to do, huh? You just have to be hating on me, and people are going to do that, and that's okay. And having, again, like I wrote about a little bit, like boundaries, and being like, no, this is what's good for me. This is what serves me. And if you live in a mentality of scarcity or just don't agree with it, that's fine. Right. But live and let live. And this is what works. Right. So I have cultural, learn about the Indonesian culture since I'm going to be in Bali, FaceTime my family once a week, calligraphy, projects. I'm leaving it open because I'm sure I'll find one when I'm there. Relationships, reach out to a friend weekly, either a care package, a FaceTime, or a massage, to really keep my network tight, because, if you don't make time for things, it just doesn't happen. Right. And I have amazing family and friends everywhere in the world. And, I really want to respect and keep and solidify those relationships. My podcast, and then financial, 75K in 3 months. So over that 3-month period. So you're breaking down your goals into 3 months, right?
Love it.
And ideally you'd be able to accomplish it in 3 months, like, and break it down in a way that it's done in 3 months. And then the next cycle, you go on to another goal, right?
Right.
So like my financial goal was 150,000 in 6 months. And so I broke it down into 75 in 3 months. So having 75 on the books in 3 months. We talked a little bit about habits. It's been proven scientifically, it takes 45 days to create a new habit. So if you're getting a massage once a week for 3 months, that's going to be a habit, right? So then once you're going on to the next cycle of 3 months or 4 months, that's already a habit, right? If you're saying, okay, I want to read a book or 5 minutes of reading before I go to bed every day, do that for 3 months, and it's already an automatic habit, which means you don't even have to schedule it in. It just becomes part of your routine. You're on autopilot. You'll see yourself going to bed early, looking forward to the book, buying new books, getting in bed, and just reading a book automatically. And so that's also why we do it for 3 months, to make sure that that stays and sticks, because once you're practicing, calligraphy, or, reaching out to friends, that's already something that's part of you. And so the next month you can fill in another gap. And then that's how kind of you grow and you create this expansion in space for more to happen.
Love it.
So after you know, map out your goals from like, let's say January to March, which is mine, you create a schedule. So it looks very intimidating.
This is like the beautiful vision, guys. I love this. And this is the space and the place where, because that's the thing, right? Having the goals is only part of it. And then to go further to break them down, like, yes, you're getting specific, you're getting clear. But then, as I always tell people, but what happens tomorrow at 6 a.m. or if you're not, or later, 8 a.m. What does that mean? What does that translate to when you're actually up and living normal everyday life, when you're away from that vision? If you haven't taken those pieces and put them into something that's real, like reality, and this is why we say, your someday starts today, because the someday, that's the time that doesn't exist. Like, oh, someday I'll figure it out. Sometime I will read. And I always tell people there's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There is no someday. So if you're waiting for someday to happen, it means it doesn't exist. Like, it's not going to happen. When you start to put things into real times, or real tangible schedules, like this is tomorrow. Tomorrow is this date at this time. It becomes real. It becomes measurable. It becomes trackable. So yeah, as crazy this may look for people, this is music to my ears. Like right here, this is everything that I love. But this is how it happens. This is what it takes to go from the wishing and the wanting and the hoping to the creating, to making it real. And this is where it becomes perhaps less sexy, but the results get sexier. Like the results are somebody who you may listen to Alexandria and be like, oh, she's going to leave to Bali. Ooh, must be nice. And you know what it is? It is nice. And it's nice because she can break it down and create things like this to make it real.
Yeah. And the only reason I'm able to like move to Bali is because I've done this for like 2 years. Mm-hmm. I've established and built a life that I can be able to travel, where I have a team to support me, where I've scaled to a point where I'm able to go and deal with a 9-hour time difference.
And you've chosen that's the thing you want as well. So people go that, oh, I wish I could do that. Okay, then make it a clear commitment. I am going to do that. And then find out how to, and then create it. So not only have you been working on it and cultivating it, but you made a clear and conscious choice that this is something that's important to you. And coming from the kind of nomadic lifestyle that I did as well, we traveled for 6 years nonstop, and I was here and I was there and I was living this life that, I had people go, wow, I just live vicariously through you. And I would just want to shake them, be like, don't live vicariously through anything. Like, you can do this whatever you want. You just have to make the choice. And that's where I knew what I wanted. And that's where I chose to put my money and to work towards and create it. And that if it was something else, if it was to be a pilot, then it would have been that, it would have been switching those gears, but it doesn't matter what it is until you make the choice and then you put everything in motion to create that. Yeah, so absolutely.
And new entrepreneurs come to me sometimes, like some of my really good friends have branched out into entrepreneurship, and I'm always like excited for them. Mm-hmm. And so I walk them through and I'll create a schedule for them. I'll like, let's hop on the phone 15 minutes. I'll make your schedule for you. And if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so overwhelmed, I swear, email me. I will make the schedule for you. I don't care.
Love it.
It also comes really easy to me. But I tell them, I'm like, you know what? Every day you're going to need to wake up and you have to make a choice. Mm-hmm. And are you going to choose the life that you want? Are you going to choose entrepreneurship, or are you going to choose to snooze your alarm and go back to sleep? Are you going to choose to wake up early and go to that gym and do what you want to do? So you were saying, we're making the choice. So like consciously choosing, and understand, like so many people like to be in that mindset of victim of, oh, it just happened. It's no, you chose to let that happen. Either you didn't have boundaries or you didn't do what you needed to do. You chose that. So it's like waking up tomorrow and choosing, okay, I'm going to choose to experiment with what Alexandria says, or I'm going to choose to be like, you know what, you're full of shit and I'm not going to, and that's fine.
Right.
Like, that's cool. And also substituting the, like, we get in this habit of saying, I don't have time, or when I find time. And if you substitute it with, it's not a priority, things shift. So if you look at like, oh, let's have coffee, and it's, I don't have time. If you change that for, you're not a priority, how does that feel? Yeah. Right? How does it like, and then you're like, ooh, no, you know what? You are important in my life. You are a priority. I'm going to make time for you. Right? So to get that choice in your priorities and where they stand. And again, like for 5 years, I had full anarchy where my priorities was to be social and not to actually have a sustainable lifestyle, because I would be like, oh yeah, let's go to lunch. Sure, no problem. 4-hour lunch, have a glass of champagne during lunch, no problem. And, I had one client that wasn't sustainable. And so I didn't really build out my company. I didn't scale. And so then when I lost my client, or I decided to switch gears, I was all of a sudden struggling and really hurting for money, right? It was like this feast and famine cycle that I was consistently in, because my priorities were off, right? Because I didn't have a structure. I didn't have a schedule. And I was just kind of like, well, I had gotten out of corporate. And so I was like, I don't want someone to tell me what to do. I don't want like an alarm to wake up. And now I'm like, yes, I am in bed. Yes, I wake up. Yes, I am in my office by 10 a.m. every single day, rain or shine. And like when I first started doing it, and here's the thing, you're going to fail. And that's okay, because you're starting and you're developing a new habit, right? You're exercising this discipline muscle. And for the longest time, I think it was like a week or maybe 2 weeks, I would get to my office at 10 a.m. and sometimes I would fall asleep on my desk. And I would just stare there and I'd be like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, no, I'm going to force myself from 10 to 1 to just sit in my desk, right? And even if that's all you do, like if you're, like we talked about the book, if you're trying to write a book and you set an alarm for an hour and you just stare at a blank piece of paper, just do it. Do it for an hour every single day or just write your name for a full hour. Right. And it's like getting into that understanding. And also back to my mystical woo, we leave energetic trails where we go. Right. So a big thing for me as an entrepreneur was separating my room, my bedroom from my office.
Yes.
As soon as I would walk into my office, my brain and my body felt that energetic signature of let's go into action mode. Right. And then my room was a place of respite. So I had like colors, warm, cozy scents, where I would get there and I'd be like, and I could like just decompress, right? So when you're, establishing a schedule of I'm going to wake up and like write a book, do it in the same spot every morning at the same time, develop that habit, that structure around it, which I know you guys are probably like, that structure around it, because it's creating an energetic signature, and then it's also a trigger that triggers a habit, right? Absolutely. And so you know that when you sit down, ooh, I need to write, right? So your brain already goes and kicks into that. So the way that I kind of added in all of the goals that I had established before on the other page, I have, wake up at 7:30, swim. So I had swim 3 times a week, run twice a week, and then I had dance, right? And so I, swim, run, swim, dance, run, right? So like every morning it changes. I hate monotony. I hate doing the same thing every day. So I know myself, right? If you're great at doing the same thing and just knowing and turning your brain off, perfect, right? Then maybe you just put go for the run, or go to the gym early in the morning, or maybe like going to the gym late at night, right? What works for you? 9 a.m. breakfast. So again, I wanted to reach out with my friends. So breakfast with a friend, regular breakfast with my mom. I FaceTime my mom every Friday. And we have like coffee and breakfast together.
I love that.
Regular breakfast, and then breakfast with a friend. And so that will be in a friend in Bali, or that will be FaceTiming a friend, so that I can keep those connections. 10 a.m. I always have my team meetings. So with both of my companies, team meeting on Monday, team meeting on Tuesday, podcast interviews, client meetings, and it goes on. So it's really looking at how can I create this space, right? It's the 12 hours in a day. I have from 7:30 to 11. 11 is my bedtime. So for example, Monday and Sundays are my day off. So Monday, like I have team meeting and admin and planning, but it's really the days that I use to plan the rest of my week. And again, it's something that's crucial that a lot of people don't do. If you don't write it down, if it's not in your schedule, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't exist. Yes, absolutely. And what I love that you have on here too is that, and I think everyone, you need to really see this and understand this, is that these items in here, like the swim, the run, the meditate, they're in there in the same positioning and authority as her client meetings. They're treated the same, with the same respect as an appointment, and it's so funny to me that we will give that respect to something we hate doing, like a dentist appointment, but not give something we want to do and love to do that same position on a schedule.
Yeah. And, for me, it was really important to do this because I use Calendly like if you use Acuity or Calendly or something like that, this will now populate into my, Google Calendar. I use Gmail, my Google Calendar. So when someone wants to book a meeting with me, they'll have like free time, maybe client work, depending on the meeting type. Those are the times they can, right? And so then also like making sure that those systems are in place, that it doesn't interfere with your process and your schedule. And so by doing that, and yeah, this is hour by hour. Sometimes you can do 30 minutes. Sometimes you can do 2 hours, like depending on how much you need. And shit's going to happen again. Like it's going to happen where maybe you're not going to be able to exactly at 10 a.m. do this, or at 11 to 12, and it's going to go over, and that's okay. Again, that's that riverbank. The water is gonna go over the top sometimes, or ebb and flow, and that's okay, but at least you have that structured time.
Yes. And the other thing too is somebody's going to ask you to do something, or will come up with something that is during something that you said. So let's say somebody contacts Alexandra at 8:00 when she was going to read and has an emergency, or maybe not, some emergency, but like, hey, would you be able to come and help me do this? She can make that decision, but she's very aware of what she would be giving up. And and there's times where that's absolutely fine. You're like, yeah, you know what? It's totally fine. I was just going to read and meditate, so I can totally help you. And there might be other times where it's like, you know what? Can you do it later? Because this thing that she has there, she sees that it's not worth giving up for that, for whatever that exchange is. And that's the thing for me, I have family time scheduled. And so working in different time zones, you tend to have people who will request for you, which is considered odd hours. And there's times where they might ask, well, can you meet at this time? And that's 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. where I'm having dinner with my family. And I have to make that decision. Do I give up that family time, or do I go with the client? And there's not a right or wrong. There are times where I'm like, you know what? Yeah, it's fine. Like I've been with them all week and I can spare 1 hour in that day. And there's other times where it's like, you know what? I haven't seen them. It's been really busy. I like, can you do it later? And I choose not to give up that time. And I know, but it's not that you can't change it. It's not that it's, infallible. It's more that the awareness of what you're choosing, what you're giving up, where its structure is, that is how you do it. And really bringing this all kind of full circle, this whole episode is about creating that time for yourself. And it started with the structure, the idea of, what do I want? Where are my goals? Where are my things? And now we've gotten here. This is nitty gritty, guys. Like, this is beautiful and probably scary to so many people. But if you're wondering, like, I write these goals, guys, I've been doing it, what you said, and I write these goals, but then it doesn't happen. It doesn't manifest. It's because this is the step that's missing. It's the nitty gritty that looks perhaps intimidating, but the truth is she's already offered. Call her. She'll help you make the damn schedule. So that's not the block anymore. So let go of the fear, let go of the I don't know how, and just move into, let me try it, because I haven't done it yet. I haven't done this way yet. I've gotten to the goals, but I haven't gotten to the plan. And that's going to make a huge, huge difference. Yeah. So Alexandra, I know we've talked so much about things. Is there anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up?
No. So the other thing would be, like, as you were saying, the nitty gritty, people manifest and do vision boards a lot, right? Yeah. This is the part that, like, this is why it's not happening, because you're not doing this. And then again, with boundaries, making time for yourself, I learned that when people were like I have breakfast for an hour and swimming in the morning, people would want to schedule with me before 10 a.m. and I'd be like, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Right. And like, everyone knows, you're like, what are you doing? I have a meeting. And it's a meeting with myself. It's a team with myself, because I'm an entrepreneur.
You don't need to justify it.
Exactly. And so just telling them, no, I'm busy at that time. Do you have another time? Right. So you don't have to explain it. And that's okay for you to honor it in yourself and just be like, this is my time. Absolutely. And just, making sure that you have your morning routine, whatever that might be. And then your bedtime routine, like, that's really important. And so, like, I have also, on Mondays, it's like I take ritualistic baths. I had an injury in my arm, and it really helps with the circulation. It helps with my muscles. So I take a bath, and like I schedule it in, because like, and people would be like, what are you doing on Monday night? I'm like, it's my bath time. And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, my bath time. And I'm like,
don't worry about it.
And sometimes like I would have to move it around, and I would have a bath midday, which is like odd to people, but I'm like, I need to get my bath in. Like,
right.
And then the other last thing that I just wanted to show really quickly, because I know we went on a couple tangents, is so this is like your schedule, right? And that's still time blocking, right? Just like an hour for a meeting, or 2 hours here, or 3 hours, however long you think it's going to take. And then really breaking it down, right? So my financial goal is X. What is my action item? So if I want to make $75,000 in 3 months, that means I need to close, 5 deals, which means I need to find, a conversion rate, like let's say 10 clients, because only 2 are going to convert, right? So like looking at, okay, making 5 calls a week, right? And so what day do I set it? When is it due? And when is it complete? And then knowing that within that, when I'm doing admin or client meetings or, planning, that I'm doing those actions items and plugging those in. So it's going from big goals, like this is the year, the 3 months, the weekly schedule, and then like these are my small steps that I need to take. And that can be like, you take an hour to plan, right? Like, okay, next week I need to do this. And another huge thing is like, take control of your time again. A lot of people, the first thing they do when they go into the office is they open up their email, and then they're just like, or they look at their phone and they have all these messages that they have to respond. Don't do that. Like do 1 hour at least, like a Pomodoro timer of, this is what I need to do. Like, this is what I need to do. These are like my definite, and then like respond to the world.
Yeah. The inbox, your inbox is only just is a full place of other people's agenda for you. And so absolutely choose a time. And I'm a big believer of choosing not only a single time that you check it, but even letting people know, because then there's an expectation. Look, I check my email between 3 and 4. So if they have some emergency, and the truth is rarely is any emergency going to make a difference any sooner. If it's truly an emergency or life or death, you're probably not the one they need to talk to. And if they are, they can call you. They're not going to email you like, hey, there's a problem with your family. Like, they're going to call you. So like your email, you can say, I get back to email 3 to 4. And so people know like, oh, she's not going to get back to, she's not going to see this until 3 because she told me that's when she does it. You set yourself a timer, you have a plan. Otherwise it is going to be just an endless place again of other people's agenda for you. Your goal, more times than not, unless I don't know anyone's job who's specifically just checking email. That's not what you get paid for. That's not the 20% that produces 80% of the results. So that is not, it's busy work. Like what is urgent and what's important, and rarely anything urgent is actually as important as it is to move you forward. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you for bringing up the inbox trap, because that's not what we need to do.
Yeah. And even the social media, like I am highly addicted to Instagram. That's my kryptonite. Don't wake up and have the first thing you see your phone, right? Yeah. Because then you're going to go on Instagram, you're going to go on Facebook or Twitter or whatever else you use. And then you're going to end up in your inbox, and then you're going to hop out of bed because you have to answer. And then your morning routine goes out the window, right? Or, you even forget to say hi to your husband, anything can happen. So again, it's like taking control.
And you're also giving the power of what's going to come into your brain to somebody else as well. So you're giving that first. So you might see bad news. You might see someone that makes you feel that you're not doing as well in your business. Like those are that they don't make you feel that way, but that causes those feelings. So and it's a roulette. You don't know what's going to happen when you're scrolling there. So you're handing that power of what your mental frame of the day is going to be over to Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Like I have a rule, none for 90. So the first 90 minutes, there's no social media. There's no social media. There's no inbox. There's none of that for the first 90 minutes upon waking. So whatever it is that you do, none of it can be that. Like, we're not going to play that roulette. I'm going to be in charge of what fills my space and fills my mind in that first time of the day. So absolutely.
You're at an incredibly vulnerable space when you just wake up. Right. Yeah. So again, like we were talking about not waking up to like a really loud alarm, not waking up to news that isn't really going to affect you. Like that news that isn't really going to have you be on that high energy level that you need to be on to have a sustainable day. So, last thing, just break it down, like the nitty gritty even more, right? Like relationships. Okay, I need to schedule a call with so-and-so. I need to check my emails. And then that's kind of, how you lay it out, and having an accountability buddy. Like I had accountability buddies where I have a whole thing with consequence. Like, what was my consequence? And it might be, if you don't, schedule those 30 calls, you're not going to make $75,000. And if you have a car payment or a house payment or something like that, that's not going to happen. And sometimes the consequence can be like, well, one of my friends was addicted to going to the gym. Like she couldn't go to the gym until she finished that, right? So then she wouldn't work out and she would like feel really shitty. So it's like, what are your consequences? And sometimes it's just having that like talk of your goal isn't going to happen. And how will that make you feel?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you can see like, this is the cause and this is the effect. Like, this is what I'm choosing to do so I can have this, or if I don't do it, then this happens. And that really grounds you into, okay, because, sometimes it does get tedious to wake up at the same day and like do the same and like go through the motions. But like that reminder of, if I don't do this, this is not going to happen. Right? Like I see my vision board. I see like, I want to buy an island. Like if I don't do this, my island's not going to happen. It's not just going to drop out of the sky and like someone's going to be like, "Ooh, Alex, we heard you wanted an island. Here you go." Like if you want to give me an island, like sure.
Right.
So really keeping in mind that it's all for a good reason, like for your goals, so that at the end of the year, you can look back at, versus resolutions, your goals, and see, hey, I bettered my relationships. I bettered my communication. I bettered my financial situation. I grew my company. I worked out and I feel the healthiest I've ever been. I dance and I have more joy in my life. Like, what is it that you want to do? And that like motivator of why, versus just like, oh, I don't have time for myself, and you're coming home and you're Netflixing for 2 hours because you're tired from work.
Right.
That's BS. Like that's going to drain your adrenals, right? Like what you're looking for is an input. Put on a podcast, go for a walk, go talk to a friend. And like, not to say like I Netflix, like I go down the Netflix hole sometimes and it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, oh, and then I feel like shit in the morning, right? Like I don't get my stuff done. So, it's okay to fail, but like going back to like, if you're listening to this, it's because you wanted to find a way to create time. And this probably wasn't the way that you were thinking you're going to create it. But if you do follow these steps, you will find time. You will be happier. You will be healthier. And whatever you set yourself up to do, like this is you setting yourself up for success. So just remember that.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I love it so much. Thank you so much. So before my absolute last question, can you please tell everyone where they can find you and anything else that you have going on?
Yes. So you can go to my conference website, A Conscious Coach Conference. You can also go to my LinkedIn, Alexandria Tomayko. And then also we have an Instagram for A Conscious Coach Conference, and a Facebook and an Instagram from Nomadic Planning and A Conscious Coach Conference. So you can just, either email me, private message me. I'm on all of the things. I'd love to talk to you guys. I have a program coming up on how to plan your own retreat. So it's a 6-month program where we go step by step, holding your hand, developing all of this kind of stuff with you so that you can plan and have a successful retreat, meaning not only do your attendees get what they want, like however you want to make them feel, but also that you make money. And then our conference is October 2020. A Conscious Coach Conference. We bring in 40 speakers from all areas in different fields. And we're going to host hopefully like 500 people. And so we'd love to see you there as well.
Awesome. And where is that going to be?
San Diego.
Awesome. San Diego, California. All right.
San Diego, California.
All right. Well, again, so awesome. So for the last question, what is the assignment after all of these things that we've discussed? And really, I guess that's kind of the question too, is like, we have heard so much. So when we're starting to move out and like break into this, or, and take that first step. And then for me, someone as Alexandria knows, this is my life as well. Scheduling. I love all this stuff, but we always have things to improve on and grow on and test. So what would you have me do for this next week to design my best life by making time for myself and my goals?
So we talked about it. We talked about it a little bit before, but, so I'm going to challenge you, to really lock in and keep sacred your morning and evening routine for a week.
Yes.
And see how that changes. So that also includes, setting a bedtime timer. And if that's like you want to be in bed by midnight, maybe setting it at 11, so that like by the time you brush your teeth and you say goodnight and you do whatever you need to do. And then same with the morning, and really keeping that like no one can touch that time to see how it improves, your functionality, because you're so good at scheduling everything else, right? And like making time for everyone else. But really offering that as a gift to yourself and seeing how that changes. And that might be, just meditating 5 minutes a day, or like manifesting 5 minutes a day, right? With the other wonderful things that you've learned through your show that you want to implement, and just carving out that time of, nope, this is me time, you know. And that might be like you just sitting in the shower an extra 10 minutes because it just feels good. Okay, you know, like
So. Well, I know for me too, it's really just giving myself the time and the permission to say no, and like cut off the day and then get there. And I know for myself, like this is one thing too, people think about this as your bedtime. Like I know the time I want to go to sleep, but I don't fall asleep right away. So I really have to go, and I'll say it right now, I know for myself, I actually really, my evening routine needs to start at about 8 o'clock. I need to be like in the bed by 8:30 or 9 to sleep by 9 or 9:30. Like that, it's going to take that half an hour. I'm going to unwind, and I know myself. I know my body. I don't have that. My husband can be out in 3 minutes, not me. I'll take that half hour. So if I really want to be asleep by that time, I can't go to sleep at the time I want to be asleep. I need to be in bed, and so I not only have a bedtime, but I have an in bed time. So what time I actually need to be in that bed, and so I had to have that alarm and have that transition. So I'm really excited because I need to get back on the bandwagon with this and really live that. So absolutely. Thank you so much. You guys, it's time to take time. That's what it is. You know, get harmony, live your best life. So if you want to try this challenge with me, make sure to tag us at My Design Live Show and use the hashtag MyTimeNow. As always, I will keep you posted on how it goes at My Design Life Show on Facebook and Instagram. And you can always check us out at our website at mydesignlife.show. You can also follow me, TanyaMFK, and learn all about our workshops, retreats, and programs at TanyaMFK.com. If you like this episode and would like to see more, make sure to click that subscribe button to be notified of our next show. And remember, your someday starts today. Make it the best. I'm TanyaMFK, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. EST live on the My Design Life Show Facebook page and on YouTube at the TanyaMFK channel. See how the challenges go by following us on Facebook and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at TanyaMFK. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Submit to be a guest or suggest a topic by visiting mydesignlife.show.